evolution, we survived because it figured out what to do if we blow a fuse. And the brain knows what to do if it believes it will destruct. It takes memories and it moves them offline so that we don't remember, so we don't have to deal with what the brain says is too much for us. It moves it somewhere else. So, and the result of that is disassociation, which means it's invisible. It's not accessible. But the nature of disassociated trauma is it's still around. It's still in the background. It plays out in our relationship choices, our human magnet syndrome urges, and we're going to be talking about that more. So if we think about the evolution of trauma, as you think about, you know, a caveman who's lost a brother to you know, they went past this cave, and inside the cave was a saber-toothed tiger, and that tiger ate his brother right in front of him. And his brother was his best friend. It could have been, we'll say his, yeah, we'll go brother, just not to upset anyone further. But, and it was so horrible, he could not remember it. The idea of remembering his brother being eaten up alive while he's screaming, it had to be repressed. But every time he went past the cave, his body, he would go into panic, he would go into fight or flight. So it was in him, he just couldn't remember it, because the brain says, I don't think it's safe for you to remember what happened to your brother, but I in the background will remind you what's going on. So attachment trauma is in the brain, literally in the brain. When I am doing the HITCH method, or I am at the retreat, I am, or in my psychotherapy sessions, actually more than that, I am very conscious that I am connecting to another part of the brain. I know that I am not talking to memories that are stored in our cortex area or on the surface of our brain, but in deeper areas. So attachment trauma is processed and encapsulated in a part of our brain called the limbic system that prevents it to be encoded or connected to our cortex. Our cortex is our thinking part of our brain. Almost all of our memories are somewhere on the cortex. It's on the outside of our brain. So if it can remove the memory, put it somewhere else that's not accessible, but somehow communicate the dangers without the memories, the trauma is remembered in a way that keeps a person safe, but it doesn't remember it. If it's moved to the limbic system, there is one part of the limbic system called the amygdala, and it's the size of a walnut, or an almond, I should say, size of an almond. That's where our traumatic memories are stored, and the amygdala is not connected to our conscious memory systems. And that's the evolution. The brain thought of a way to put the trauma somewhere else, so you can't remember it, but if you're in a traumatic situation that's similar, it'll somehow give you a message, but it won't let you remember the trauma. And here is the brain. So the cortex is the outside of the brain. The amygdala is this part way in the middle. It's literally in the middle of the brain, and on purpose, it is hidden. I mean, it's not connected. The trauma child, as I will soon be calling the HITCH. I love my terms. HITCH is healing the inner trauma child, and HITCH is the inner trauma child. It just makes it easier for me when I do my slides. I can fit less on a sentence. So, but I wanted to introduce the term, and so you can laugh now and just get it out of your system. We are going to soothe the itch or scratch it in a way that's good. The trauma child lives in the limbic system. It's cordoned off where it's managed. It's like the body, our immune system, blocking off a contaminant. The brain knows by remembering the trauma, it's going to be not good for it, so it blocks it off. It's placed, the amygdala is where it lives. It's where the limbic system manages the trauma. It's hermetically sealed. We can't get to it by memory. We can't get to it by normal therapy. It's impossible. And I'll explain this more as we move forward. There's an alarm system that protects it from escaping. It protects it from intruders. But it only has it indoor. There's no outdoor. And the trauma itself is frozen. So it's stored in the amygdala. And so the amygdala is a part of the brain that not only stores the trauma, but connects to different parts of the brain, but it won't allow the person to remember. The trauma is encoded in what I call HD 3D video files. And what I mean by that is when I get to the trauma using the HITCH method, the person is remembering it like it happened with every little detail. The memory of the trauma is frozen as it happened with more details than any other type of our memory systems. So it is cryogenically frozen, and the original emotions are attached to sensory memories. And if we can, once we get to that through the HITCH method, we are getting to something that has been packaged and sealed, and the memories have not degraded at all. Evolution made them unavailable, and as I said before, there's this system, and I'll be explaining it some more, that still communicates with our brain just in case there's danger. And I remember back when I was stationed in Misawa, Japan, this guy named Dan, funny how I remember his name. There was, back in the day, you guys probably aren't old enough to remember when cars used to backfire. Just something, I don't even know why they backfired, but it would be a boom, an explosion. And there's a reason. And so we're going downtown with a bunch of guys, I'm 19 or 20, we're drinking some beer, and a car backfires, and this guy with it just hits the ground, and he's like trembling. And here's this Mr. Calm, older guy, and I would later find out he was older, I think he was like 29, or maybe 27. He was a Vietnam vet, and he had a flashback. So he didn't, when that heard the sound of what's that, backfire, he didn't remember being back in Nam. His body dropped him to the ground. He felt so afraid he just dropped to the ground. He didn't all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, I just remembered what happened to me when my friend was killed. So let me talk a little bit about the limbic system. The hippocampus is a part of the limbic system that organizes everything. It consolidates it. It organizes the memories. It's the index system. It tells us what to remember, what not to remember, when it happened and it didn't happen. We already know what the amygdala is a part of the brain, of the limbic system that actually has the traumatic memories stored. The hypothalamus is the part that produces hormones that are connected to what we call our sympathetic nervous system. If you should feel afraid and you are in an unsafe place and hear someone walking up behind you, your body will you'll feel a surge of fear and adrenaline. Well, because without even thinking about it, your hypothalamus your amygdala is recognizing danger. You've been in danger, you've been hurt before, it sends a command to the hypothalamus that sends out all of these hormones that get you breathing, your eyes dilate, you start to breathe. It's like you're getting ready for a fight or flight, and it gets us hyper aroused so that we know what to do. And the reason I say that is you might not remember your attachment trauma or your trauma, but the part of the amygdala that does connects to the hypothalamus that sends out these chemicals that tells us we're in danger and puts us in a position where we get the heck out or we try to keep safe. So I'm really proud of how I figured out how to do, so I have to do it one more time because I learned how to do it yesterday. You see how the arrows go there? Wow. That's a brand new skill set. Yeah. Evolution's failure. The evolution was marvelous in creating the system that took our trauma, created what I call the circuit breaker, and figured out a way to hide it, but have it still communicate to the rest of ourselves to keep safe. But we have not yet evolved to have an exit. There's only an inside moment. There's an indoor but no exit. Once we're traumatized and that trauma is stored and taken offline, the brain figured out how to do this. But maybe in 1,000 years we'll evolve some more. The brain will figure out how to bring it back. That's why people can't do it by themselves, and so many therapists don't know about it. There are no natural integration processes for severe trauma. If you have severe trauma and you never get help for it, it will never go away because it's not something that over time resolves itself.